What if chasing your dream wasn't just a leap of faith, but the start of becoming the truest version of yourself? In today's episode, I'm joined by Darcy Nelson, a TEDx-featured, regionally touring singer-songwriter whose heart-centered music blends folk, jazz, and the spoken word into something she calls music medicine. Her songs explore love, longing, loss, and healing, and her journey into this work is just as powerful as the music itself. If you were at Unleashing You Live this year, you got to experience Darcy in person. She is pure magic. She left her corporate arts marketing job on the West Coast to follow a feeling, a pull towards sunshine, freedom, and self-expression. She ended up in Boulder, Colorado with no job lined up, just her guitar and a belief that there was something more for her. What unfolded is an incredible story of intuition, creativity, and trusting the whispers of a dream. In this episode, Darcy shares how a trip to Moab helped manifest her first touring opportunities, the surprising way her most vulnerable songs unlocked real connection, her advice for anyone holding on to a big dream but unsure where to start, and why your journal might just be the map to your dream life. If you've ever felt like your dream was too fragile or too far away, let this conversation and Darcy's beautiful story remind you that the magic begins when you say yes, even if you're still scared. Let's dive in and don't miss the chance to hear her original song, Brave Dreamers, at the end of the episode. Welcome to Unleashing You. This podcast is your permission slip to create success your way. I'm your host, Amanda Riffey, a certified success coach and female business leader who has climbed her way up the corporate ladder. I've been through burnout and back and found the tools to bring fun and enjoyment to my career while creating powerful results and leading in a way that feels authentic to me. This show brings you conversations with women just like you who have created massive success for themselves and are doing it in their own way. We'll hear about their personal journeys of growing their career while still prioritizing the things they love most. If you are ready to be challenged and encouraged to reach your next level, then buckle up, sister, because the road to dreamy success begins here. Let's dive in. Welcome, Darcy, to Unleashing You. You don't know how excited I am to be recording this episode with you. How are you doing?
Thank you, Amanda. I'm really excited we get to talk today. I love everything that you're about. So I'm really, really honored that I get to be on the podcast.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual for sure.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So for those who are maybe new to you, number one, I know anyone who was at Unleashing You Live is not new to you because you performed at Unleashing You Live and it was just magical. You performed multiple times for us. But let's say I'm listening to this and I wasn't in the room. Can you just give us a little background on you, your story, what you're all about?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about myself. That's fun. I'm an indie conscious folk artist is how I'm talking about my music right now. And I sort of accidentally found the bravery to pursue my creative passion after pursuing my career in digital marketing out on the West Coast. I just kind of hit a season where I was ready for a really big change. And I quit my job to house it in Colorado, following sunshine and just blissful times that I had visited out here. And so I started busking while I was job searching. And that's when you just take your guitar out on the street or at a farmer's market. No one's there to listen to you. And maybe you make some tips, maybe you don't. And that experience just was really life-changing for me in helping me learn to own my story and seeing that others were receiving the songs that I had been writing from pain and the things that I had been too afraid to share in my professional space, and just has encouraged me to keep growing into my creativity. And I did my debut album I released this past December 2024, and I'm just really loving using music in service, music as medicine, and using it to embrace mindfulness, well-being, moving from a space of writing from pain to some of that sometimes, but also understanding the power of my words and wanting to call in my best life and encourage others to do so as well with my music.
Oh, I love that so much. And one of the things I heard you say, can't remember if it was at the event or just in another interview or even just in a conversation we had, but you were talking about how, you would catch yourself listening to songs and repeating the lyrics and singing along, and then realizing the words that you were saying and how impactful, like your subconscious really grabs onto that. And so I love that you've kind of pivoted your own music to be these really positive, empowering messages that it's like a meditation in a song. So I'd love if you could just explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I heard somebody else recently. I wish I could remember who to attribute this to. Oh, I think it's Madame Gandhi. She said songs are spells. And Madame Gandhi is the drummer from the band MIA from like the 90s and the 2000s.
Love MIA. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so excited. I finally get to say now that I have co-written a song that she has released. It's
Oh
finally
my
out into the
gosh.
world. Yes. And so she's just another like high vibe conscious artist. And I think in my journey of just like probably shaking off years of depression from seasonal affective disorder on the West Coast and being out here in the sunshine, embracing life coaches, like learning from Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, some of these other thought leaders. It really, I think I've had multiple influences of people just reminding me the power of our words. And again, like music, songwriting, those are spells, they're words, it's affirmations, things that we loop through on our psyche and that we're agreeing with. And so, yeah, I feel like at some point in the last few years, I've really started to think about my music in that way. And I think about sometimes I ingest junk food because it's fun, but I can't have a diet of junk food all the time because it doesn't support.
Yeah, we can't eat Doritos all the time,
No.
but a few Doritos here or there is great.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I approach my music consumption too. Like it's really fun to listen to things, but it's really interesting too to see the resonance in my body, how sometimes I'm just like, yo, I don't want to be agreeing with that. I don't want to be agreeing with this, like, just like, again, a lot of us artists, we write from our pain. We write about painful things. When we're using I am statements, it's very powerful to the identities that we're claiming. And it's really empowering to catch myself saying things like that and then to stop and say, oh, in the past, I struggled with this and I'm working on growing into a new area. So I have songs like Brave Dreamers and like Wild Awake and Life is Good are songs that I have written as mantras for myself to claim positive things that I want. And even as I say positive, I know that there can be a toxic positivity side of things where people are just always wanting to pretend like everything's okay. But I think there's a balance of like honoring the spaces that we're in. Like the other day, I had a really low energy day and I couldn't really figure out why, but I was just really low energy and I just was more gentle with myself. I took myself away from my office a little bit sooner than usual and ran some errands out and about. And I just let myself be in that. And then the next day there was brighter skies and sunshine and oh my gosh, a breath of relief. It just felt so different.
Yeah.
And was able to, again, choose some different thoughts on repeat about the good life I'm calling in.
I love that so much. And I hear the intentionality behind your words even when you speak. Like right before we hit record, and I've heard you say this before, and I absolutely love it, is, we're talking about schedules and what's coming up. And it's really easy for us to be like, oh, this is a really busy month for me, or this is a really busy time. But I've heard you use the word abundant. Like, this is such an abundant month for me. This is an abundant time. Like, just things like that make such a huge difference we are talking to ourselves. But like you said, like those are spells. They are casting spells. They are getting planted in our subconscious. And when we talk about being that brave dreamer and creating our dreams, which I want to dive into more with you here in just a second of just that path that you've taken, the words that we choose matter. And I love that not only shows up in how you speak, but also in your songs.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I feel like I'm getting such a pep talk right now. But yeah, I feel like the abundant is something that I've put probably in my manifestation deck, that like I attract wealth and abundance and health and all these good things. And like, yeah, looking at that is abundant. And looking at my schedule right now, it can feel really busy, but I'm also learning to be even more ruthless and fierce with my yeses to ensure that all the things that I'm busy with are things that really align with my highest good. And in that sense, it does feel much more aligned to call it abundance than just to say like I'm busy and I'm frazzled, because I want to be saying no to the things that are not a good fit, that are taking me away from my core and my purpose. And then just appreciating the richness of the abundance of the things that I've got going on.
Yes, yes. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. And I want to dive in a little bit more into how your schedule has gotten so abundant from, coming to Colorado to house sit and playing music that we're not sure if anyone's going to listen to on the side of the road for free. Like, walk us through that journey, because I know so many people listening have dreams. Maybe they are to play music or write songs. Maybe it's to host their own event, write a book, launch a podcast, change careers, right? But I think it's so interesting when we can peel back the layers of like, okay, how did you get from there to here?
Small steps. I just did finger math and was like, yeah, how many years is that? It's been 7 years since I went from busking for free on the street to I did a TEDx talk a couple years ago. I've got a couple festivals lined up this year. I've been invited down to the Sedona Yoga Festival to do a first ever presentation on like mantras and medicine. I've got a festival in Colorado Springs that has invited me down. Last year, I got to play Denver's big UMS. So I feel like there's probably different people that have talked about those math numbers too on like arches and bridges and growth. But one of the things as well in my like manifestation deck that I was noticing again this morning is something about like small steps of like I build small consistent steps. And I think I also need to get better at wording my affirmations in a way that I can remember them all, because if I still can't quote that one verbatim and I've been reading it for a year and a half, maybe there's something that's not fully locked in.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think a big motivation for me though too that kept me moving was just understanding like, how do I word this? It was just kind of understanding that I had potential, and it was the question mark. Because that first summer, I fed myself off of tips from busking, and I really didn't feel like I was that great, but I fed myself through the generosity of farmers and people that sort of knew I was self-employed and whatnot. But I was like, literally the thing I said a lot was like, damn, I'm not even good. And like, I fed myself, like, what could I do if I was good? So I think that question just kind of drove me to want to continue to pursue potential, wondering just with curiosity of like, what else could I do if I really applied myself? And continually when I'm in the music scene, I'm like, last night I watched a man at an open mic and just thought, I wish I had like a cheat shortcut where I could plug in like the skill set he's got from his 20,000 hours of practicing his guitar and just plug that in and be that good. Because again, it's like, man, what spaces could I share in if I could play guitar like that? And so I think continually, I just get so much reward and richness from sharing from my heart, from sharing my stories and song, that I'm motivated to want to have more connective experiences where I get to share with people, because I feel like I need it. And then it's encouraging when there's one or two other people that say that something related to them, or it's encouraging. And so I think it's that for me, just of like the curiosity of what other spaces I can share in that makes me want to keep growing and take those small steps of daily growth. And even the idea of like 1% growth daily. I'm listening to this guy, Eddie Pinero, that's big on fitness. And with the fitness concept, to think about if you're out there running in the rain and the snow and the weather every day against people who don't do it when the weather's bad, and you're doing it every day, those little choices really stack up to like potential over a year and over multiple years. And even thinking, I'm not a sports person, but like Michael Jordan and some of the greats, the number of hours they would put into their practice just put them leagues beyond some of their peers. And so I feel like I'm kind of trying to apply some of those things in my personal and creative life of just small growth, small practice for over time change.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anybody that wants to be doing music stuff, another beautiful thing that I've heard somebody say is like, baby, surviving is thriving. I have to get the quote back on that. It's one of my friends from Folk Alliance. She's up in Canada, but she's like, in the music scene, baby, surviving is thriving. If you don't quit, you're succeeding. And like, it's a long grind.
Oh, I love that. If you don't quit, you're succeeding. And that, man, is that not the truth when it comes to creating a dream, whether it's changing careers, creating a book out of thin air, writing a song out of thin air, booking a gig, whatever it is. I think so often we give up in the hard parts. We give up in the parts when it's snowing outside, when it's raining outside. We're like, oh yeah, I'm just not feeling it today. And I'm not saying don't give yourself rest, because we do need that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do those small things every single day in the pockets of time that you are going to look back in 6 months, a year, 2 years' time and be amazed at what you can create with just those small, incremental, actionable steps. I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with the whole big picture or where we want to be. It can just feel overwhelming. So then we're just like frozen. We can't actually take any action. And what I heard you say was like, you just kept focusing on what was the next aligned step, the next thing here, and just consistency with that. And now you can look back 5, 6, 7 years later and like, wow, like look at where I was then and where I am now, even if we still have big dreams that you want to tackle next.
If I could share one other secret sauce that I have that I feel like is applicable for any industry, it is just putting yourself out there, whether it's physically going to the city and the place you want an opportunity and keeping your eyes open and following your intuition, or whether it's speaking aloud on an airplane to the person next to you, something you want to be doing. I have gotten great, beautiful opportunities through both of those things of just putting myself out there. And again, I think it's that law of attraction of just confidence and wanting to attract things from the universe. I really wanted to gig in Moab, so I went camping one year. And that experience led me down this magical path of discovering something that led me to beautiful opportunities to play at resorts in Moab and to get paid well for it and to have cool audiences. And then again, I was on a flight and I was just chit-chatting with the woman next to me, telling her how I'd love to be doing more of that, playing in resorts and whatnot. And she's like a high up at a boutique hotel chain. And she shared my contact with all of her people across portfolios.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been getting emails and invites from different people to come and play fun, easy listening, well-paid gigs where like I don't stand out well at a bar. And I'm not like the raucous, upbeat music people want to hear in a bar, but I'm perfect for like a boutique hotel where I get to wear a fancy dress and just have a fun little experience for travelers. And so I would say that it is a magic sauce just to put yourself out there and to tell people what you want and to put yourself in the places where you want to be before you have an invite. Just do it with confidence and see what doors open and align.
Yes. Because you never know who you're talking to. And then, like you said, that law of attraction. I was actually going to ask you about that Moab story because you've shared that with me before too. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that story? Because I think that is just magical when it comes to manifesting the opportunities that you're looking for.
I love this story. I didn't want to go too deep into the weeds, but yeah.
Yeah, we have time. Just go deep.
Okay. So one of my favorite like manifesting stories is that I just really wanted to play music in Moab. It seems like such a magical place. I didn't have a big budget for a vacation, so I took my tent, I found a campsite, and I camped out for a few nights. And literally a man pulled up into the campsite and got out of his car and was looking at a map. And usually I'm very aware of stranger danger, but for some reason I felt drawn to go over and just say hi and chat with him and ask him what was up, because he clearly wasn't camping there, but he pulled out of the way into this campsite and looking at our sign. And he had just mentioned, oh yeah, there's a music festival happening down the way on an unmarked trail. There's a tour bus there right now, and they've hiked into a hidden grotto with a symphony to go play music at this like watering hole oasis that's tucked away. And what a wild, just to hear that opportunity. So I literally got in my car, drove down about 1.5 miles, whatever his description was, looked to the right, saw a tour bus tucked into a thicket where there was just enough room for my car to pull over. Truly, there was no signs, no trailheads or anything. I knock on the door. Hi, I heard there's a music festival. Can you tell me more? And he hands me the festival guide that has all the venues listed, info about the organizers. And then I hiked myself back into that space just to go check it out. I missed the concert, but I got to discover, I walked past the attendees and said hi. I got to see people carrying their instruments out on this trail and got to then just sit and film content and have this amazing experience in this magical acoustic space where it's like a horseshoe bowl of canyon walls, a thicket of desert jungle, and then water that just projects all the sound out. And I've been in there twice. It's a little bit unnerving because it's a watering hole and I have seen big cat tracks and things. So I make noise and I shake keys and sing as I'm going in. But that just like picking up that guide, it then gave me a reference point. And I think I probably went and visited a few places in person and I followed up via emails. And again, I was able to then get booked at Under Canvas and at a place called Red Cliffs Lodge and be out there for music residency. So it was just like wildly exciting again to have followed my intuition and not being like, oh, strange man, don't talk to him. But something in me was just like, go see what's up over there and go see if you can find that unmarked trail. Knock on the door of the tour bus. Say hi.
Yeah, there are so many opportunities in that story for like your ego or your fear to kick in and be like, yeah, no, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't, or like even just knocking on the tour bus of like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, okay, I showed up. I don't see anyone. I'm just going to turn around and leave before anyone notices me. But with every step, you really followed your intuition. And I have an episode on following your intuition in general. But then I also did an episode with Kate Killian, who I know we both know, on somatic healing and just being able to tap into your body and knowing what that full body yes feels like, what that full body no feels like.
Ooh, I've got to listen to this.
And I feel like your story just really tells to that of like, okay, yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I followed that yes. And look at where it led you. Like you were able to then manifest getting paid bookings in the area that you had at the time, no connections. We were just camping, just hanging out there.
Yeah. I hope that encourages people again. If somebody's got like a dream and they have no idea where to start, but they feel drawn to something, of just like pursue it with intention, see what happens.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a great segue into kind of the next topic that I wanted to talk about was, and you mentioned this before, was around really creating from your heart. You mentioned that even earlier when you were talking about taking those small action steps, and even your calendar is now filled up with things that just feel really aligned. And I do think that that is a key to having that, we'll call it the brave dreamers mindset of creating that dream, is also doing it from a place that just feels so authentic to you. What would you say to that?
Ooh. Can you rephrase that for me again, just for the question? Because I feel like that's just a yes statement for me. I'm like, how do I even respond to that?
Yes. Okay. So how do people, great question, because I didn't ask a question.
You did, but I was like,
But if I'm sitting here listening to this and being like, okay, like, what does that even mean? What does that even feel like? How does that help me? Like, what tips would you give? Because I know like there were times where, I was in corporate and I loved my corporate career, but there were like being an entrepreneur feels so much different for me, where now I just have like full permission to just really trust myself and lean into whatever feels good. But that took some adjusting for me to do, because I was used to kind of being told what to do. Like, this is the direction we're going now. Get on board. And I can, and I do. But so many of us don't know how to trust ourselves and really lead from that authentic place. So what advice would you give to that person?
I feel like some mode of like checking in with counseling would be great. Like you mentioned, there's people that do somatic healing to help us get in touch with our yes and our no. I'm still working on that in the dating world in a really big way. I give too many opportunities to maybes and need to be working on my yes. I think other things, I've got a few different thoughts for this, of like journaling can be really helpful, of giving yourself permission to free write. If you've never done free write journaling, don't edit, don't judge. Put your pen to the paper and fill it until your timer's up, and allow yourself to meditate on whatever prompt it is, whether this is what lights me up. I think I would be excited to do this in my wildest dreams. If I gave myself permission to dream, this is maybe what it would be. And maybe some of those things make it up on our vision board, and they might be a few years out. Like I'm still really drawn to the tropics in Costa Rica and places where I can surf. I have not yet really breached into that with music, but it's something that is further down the line than like tomorrow or next year. And then some of the other things that can be really helpful is I'm also like a marketing strategy brain in addition to a creative. And so part of why my calendar is full is because I sort of do calendar batching, where I think about what are my top goals. So like right now I've got this silly little visuals for me.
Oh my gosh, it's like, so cute.
It's messy, but like retreats, radio, and sync. And it says, I focus on building retreats, radio, and sync opportunities. So those are like my 3 pillars. And then I can have different steps of my week that I'm working a lot on fulfillments right now because I've had a lot of things I've been invited to do, and a lot of them are requiring a lot from me when it comes to social media and marketing and fulfillments. So I have a new section of my week that's on fulfillments. And did I create these designs? Did I schedule the social post? Did I give them my stage plots? Like all the things I'm supposed to be providing. And then asks. So again, I'm working on radio placements in Arizona because I have an opportunity to be there physically. So it'd be cool to be on the local radio stations, projects that are coming up, and then like little tasks. So I feel like when you identify maybe do some rewriting and think about what brings me joy. What am I passionate about? What would I let myself dream wild about if I was going to let myself dream wild? And then maybe pick a few actionable buckets of what those opportunities look like. And even in addition to that, somebody recently was just encouraging me to get out of just productivity and to also just do things that bring me joy. And for me, one of those things is dancing, and I love country dancing. And being there a few times has actually inspired a few songs. So I don't go for content. I go because it makes me so happy and it brings a lot to my life. And there's been times where I've not prioritized it because it's a use of my time and it's a long, late night. But I think that it's that importance of the things that bring us joy that are aligned to commodities, like the output
Yes.
that we get in this world, and then things that we do just for joy, knowing that that keeps us enlightened and that's a part of life. And I think that's a balance that probably we continue revisiting our whole lives in different stages and seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think I love the exercise of free writing. I think that's huge. And for some people, that could feel intimidating. So I love the way that you broke it down of, set yourself a timer. There's plenty of like visualizations or meditations you could do right before to just kind of get in that mode. They could listen to one of your songs, honestly. and, and then just kind of open up that free writing or listen to it while they're free writing would be really cool as well. But just take the pressure off. No edits, no anything. Just write whatever comes out. And the longer you do it, the easier it becomes. But there's so much gold in what comes out of those types of sessions. So I think
For
that's
sure.
such a great tip. And then I love that you mentioned too, it's, kind of balancing that more of the functional masculine side of, staying organized. What are my priorities? What are the things I'm saying yes to? What are the things I'm saying no to? Well, then also finding that flow and that ease and more of that femininity. And that's one of the things that I struggle with more, or that I struggle with. I need to be more intentional about. And when I am more intentional about staying in that flow more often, I naturally feel inspired. So like for me, it might be sitting down to read a book. I'm reading a book right now that did not have any intention of like having it be homework or anything like that. But every single time I pick up that book, I get new ideas and for my own book or, this would be really cool to do. And so then I like pause, put some stuff down in my notes app and then come back to reading. But it's things like that you're talking about that wasn't the intention, it wasn't the purpose, but it's a beautiful bonus that when I'm doing those things now, I just feel really, really inspired.
Yeah. And I guess I have one more thing too with like when your original question was kind of like the body yes is how I interpret that of like how do we get more in touch with like our yeses. And I feel like one of the things that I also don't know which yoga modality to point people to, but I have found a lot of benefit to different yoga practitioners that invite me to have an awareness of my breath and invite me to have an awareness of body scans. Because again, with physical fitness, I think sometimes it's so masculine of push, push, push that we learn to shut off pain and to ignore signals from our body. And there's some yoga practitioners that can be really, really helpful in helping us identify too of like stiffness is sometimes emotional stuff, like blockages stuck in our body. And so for me, like yoga has also been a helpful way to continue to move through. And I have plenty of work still to do for sure in like unlocking my yeses and nos and releasing past traumas and things like that. But I feel like maybe those are helpful starting breadcrumbs of what's been useful for me of getting a little bit more tapped in of my state, my breath, body scans. And even just because then that for me, the body scans from yoga is then a tool when I'm looking at other situations to see how a yes feels for me. I know some people have felt like, do you notice your body lean forward with a yes? Do you notice your body lean back? Is there anything that feels uneasy in your stomach? Is there like a lightness in you? And so I guess I haven't thought intensively around language for these things, but it's something that I'm sensing that I have some awareness of that I can continue to grow in that space.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So I'm hoping everyone is leaving this with just some pieces of information that they can then run with to tap into their own intuition, tap into their own dreams, and really cultivate that mindset that's going to help them to really bring that to reality. And I think you're just such a great testament of that.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I just feel like one of the last things I want to remind myself and others is that life is short. We need to have so much fun before we're dead. Like we're
Heck yeah.
going to get through this life experience so fast, make risks, take chances, have fun. Don't take it too seriously because it's going to go by so fast.
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. Oh, I love it. Okay. Where can our listeners find you if they want to listen to your music, which, spoiler alert, we're about to do that here in just 1 second, but they want to listen to more of your music and just connect with you in all the ways?
Yeah. People can find my first released album and a few singles streaming on all the major platforms from Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It's just my name, Darcy Nelson. And again, pretty much any music distribution platform you listen to will have my released music. I also love sharing little drops of unreleased sound bites before things are fully produced and released. And folks can join my monthly e-news for that at darcynelson.com. I send it once a month and there's private listen links and fun little snippets behind the scenes. And I spend time on Instagram at Darcy Nelson Music. And TikTok, if you really want to catch some of my weird, unfiltered side, Darcy does music on TikTok.
Enticing.
I just posted something really weird about like gardening and like dirty talk.
Oh my God. I don't even have TikTok, but now I feel like I need it so that I can go see that. Oh, beautiful.
I might take it down. That's the thing about social. Like you can always post it up and take it down.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much. I love it. Okay. So we are going to actually wrap up this episode with an Unleashing You first. And we were talking beforehand. I'm like, we need to play your music. Like we've been talking about it this whole time and we really need to play it. So we're going to take you out on a beautiful song that Darcy wrote called Brave Dreamers. She performed this at Unleashing You Live. And if you listen to the words of this song, it's going to really capture everything that we just talked about in this episode and just encourage you to bring your own dreams to life because you deserve that and life is short and you can be brave and you can do this. So, Darcy, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me and for all your great energy. I feel like I'm jazzed for the rest of my day after talking to you.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, you guys, we'll let you listen into the music.
We are the brave dreamers who hope without evidence of sight. Fuel your fire, ignite desire, claim every inch of your birthright. Dream of abundance, dreamer. Invest what you cannot yet see. Don't limit your life, potential or impact. You are destined to do amazing things. You are a magnificent of ancestors brought you to this moment in time where anything is possible. Believe in your dreams, dreamer. Affirm you deserve your desires. Trust in the waiting, anticipating outcomes that exceed your heart's desires. Your thoughts and beliefs shape
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you'd like to continue this conversation, connect with me on Instagram and say hello. You can find me at AmandaRiffy_coaching. In the meantime, if you know you are ready to step into the next incredible version of you and want to completely accelerate your personal and professional growth, let's work together. I offer one-on-one private coaching as well as workshops and in-person events. There's really something for everyone. To learn more, visit my website at acrprofessionalcoaching.com or send me a DM on Instagram and start a conversation. And don't worry, I truly want all of us to succeed. So I promise I will never steer you wrong. Let's create a career and life you love. Chat with you again soon.